There's a saying in boxing that the sport is only as good as its heavyweight division, and in the case of the UFC, this division has been home to many of its most iconic fighters. Standing above all of them as the most accomplished UFC heavyweight of all time, and arguably the greatest, is Stipe Miocic. The current king of the jungle holds the record for most title fight wins in the heavyweight division, as well as most consecutive defenses of his crown. Though for a long time he flew somewhat under the radar, Miocic has proved himself time and time again in the spotlight. Not to mention, he did it all while he was working as a firefighter alongside being the baddest man on the planet. This is the story of Stipe Miocic. Born in Euclid, Ohio in 1982, Stipe was the lone child of Croatian immigrants Kathy and Bohan Miocic. While his parents separated at a young age, Stipe's mother would have a huge part to play in his career trajectory by encouraging his involvement in sport. From a high school level, he was involved in several sports from football to wrestling. He gravitated towards baseball, and during his time spent in college, would gather interest from several MLB teams. Though he was incredibly successful in baseball, helping his college to win the 2005 Trans-South Athletic Conference regular season and tournament, Miocic then discovered a passion for boxing. Whilst training as a wrestler in high school, Stipe would get brought in as a training partner at a nearby MMA gym, as they used his wrestling ability to help prepare a fighter named Dan Bobish. Based in Independence, Ohio, strong-style MMA would become Stipe's new home and would remain this way to this very day. Training under head coach Marcus Marinelli, Miocic went on to win the Cleveland Golden Gloves Championship and reach the quarterfinal stage of the national championships. With his high school wrestling background, where he was an NCAA Division I wrestler at Cleveland State, and his boxing experience, Stipe made his pro MMA debut in February of 2010. In the space of just under a year and a half, Miocic fought 6 times, with 5 fights in the Cleveland Promotion North American Allied Fight Series. He won his first 6 bouts via KO without seeing a third round. After being signed by the UFC on June 14, 2011, Stipe made his debut against Joey Beltran at UFC 136. After winning the fight via a unanimous decision, Miocic followed this up with 2 finishes over Philip DeFries and Shane Del Rosario. Stipe's 4th fight in the UFC saw his first professional setback in the main event of a fight night in Nottingham, England. After some controversy regarding eye pokes, Miocic was stopped by Stefan Struve in the 2nd round. In his next 3 fights, Miocic regained the momentum he lost with another 3 consecutive wins, defeating heavyweight veterans Roy Nelson, Gabriel Gonzaga, and Fabio Maldonado. Miocic's 3rd fight of 2014 was a 3rd main event spot against fellow top contender Junior Dos Santos. In a fight of the night earning bout, Miocic came out on the wrong side of a unanimous decision, despite the fight being incredibly back and forth. Once again, the Cleveland native rebounded with a 5th round stoppage of Mark Hunt, setting a UFC record at the time for the largest strike margin, outlanding Hunt by 361 to 48. After being slated to face Ben Rothwell, Stipe was forced to withdraw from the fight due to an injury and was instead booked to face Andrei Arlovski in January of 2016. Stopping Arlovski inside the 1st minute, Miocic was then scheduled for a fast turnaround, stepping in for the injured Cain Velasquez to challenge Fabricio Verdum for the heavyweight title. The fight was pushed back from February to May at UFC 198. In a moment that silenced the entire arena in Brazil, Miocic caught Verdum with a huge right hook counter while moving backwards. The champion instantly fell face down to the floor in front of his home crowd as Miocic was crowned the new heavyweight king, shaking up the MMA world in the process. No heavyweight champion had ever defended the belt 3 times consecutively, and in Miocic's first 3 defenses, he faced 3 very different opponents. At UFC 203 in September 2016, Miocic took on MMA veteran Alistair Overeem, who was on a 4-0 win streak with finishes over Arlovski, Stefan Struve, and Junior Dos Santos. In one of the best rounds of the year, Miocic was dropped early on in the fight, but rallied to knock Overeem out by the end of the opening round. In his 2nd defense in May of 2017, Miocic got revenge on an old foe. In a rematch with Junior Dos Santos, Stipe showed the improvements he had made by stopping JDS in the 1st round. Against the consensus best boxer in the division, Miocic's accuracy and power got the job done, with him saying after the fight that he knew he had to end it quickly after he endured some devastating leg kicks early on. In his 3rd defense, the champion faced the most dangerous man in the division who had exploded onto the scene in the last year. With an iconic uppercut knockout of Alistair Overeem, the world was captivated by the devastating power of Francis Ngannou. After stopping his last 2 opponents in the 1st round, this fight showed another side of Stipe. Engaging in a firefight with Ngannou would be dancing with death. So instead, he used his superior boxing, wrestling, and cardio to wear his opponent down and dominate him in the grappling exchanges. Though he ate some punches that would have sent most heavyweights to sleep, Miocic's fight IQ and solid game plan made this fight look easy at points for him. After the champion felt disrespected by the amount of promotion Ngannou was given by the UFC, he made his coach wrap the belt around him instead of Dana White, which is the standard ceremony. The next chapter of Miocic's career would all be centered around one man. In July of 2018, a huge super fight was booked where light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier would return to the heavyweight division to challenge Miocic. As would be the case in all of their fights, eye pokes were a key talking point of the bout, with Miocic struggling with his vision early on. As the two separated from a clinch, 40 seconds on from the fight being stopped for an eye poke, Cormier hit the champion with a huge right hand before ultimately securing the finish. Ending the longest heavyweight title reign in UFC history, Cormier would go on to defend the belt against Derek Lewis 5 months later and had cemented his legacy as a double champion in the UFC. Their rematch was set for August 17th in 2017 at UFC 241, over a year after their first fight. Miocic had taken the time to sit out, as he felt he deserved an immediate rematch, and this time allowed him a break from competition. For the first 3 rounds, Cormier was incredibly impressive, with Miocic being forced to lean on his toughness. In the 4th round, Miocic's fight IQ kicked in as he started to switch up his approach and target the body of Cormier with hooks. With Cormier having his arms up to establish range and to try and counter Stipe, the body shots landed over and over again, and when Cormier seemed hurt by one, Miocic followed up with a combination. After stumbling the defending champion, Miocic continued to land clean shots and got the stoppage victory, reclaiming his title in one of the best heavyweight title fights the UFC had ever seen. Most importantly, Miocic once again showed his versatility as a champion, adapting throughout the fight to change its course. The clear option for both men was to have a deciding trilogy fight to define their legacies, even if it meant holding up the division's other contenders. Booked over 2 years on from their first meeting, Miocic vs. Cormier 3 was scheduled for UFC 252 on August 15, 2020. The body shots from the second fight had added another weapon to Miocic's arsenal, one that forced Cormier to adapt his style and fight with less aggression. Once again, Miocic's fight IQ and game plan were crucial to this fight as he controlled the pace for the most part, using his size to dictate the range and hurting Cormier at several points with his boxing. Stipe won a unanimous decision in a fight that saw him take a lot less damage than the second. Putting their legendary trilogy to bed with a brilliant adjustment from Miocic, Cormier announced his retirement after the bout. The champion, on the other hand, would continue to defend his crown since winning it back. After he and Cormier had fought over the belt for so long, a former foe was lurking in the wings waiting for Stipe to return. On a run of 4 first-round knockouts, with no opponent making it past a minute and a half, Francis Ngannou had once again embarked on a reign of terror since losing to Miocic and Derek Lewis in 2018. With wins against Curtis Blades, Cain Velasquez, JDS, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik, this version of the Predator is even more dangerous than the one that fought Stipe last time. At UFC 260, Miocic will look to defend the heavyweight title for the 5th time after already solidifying himself as the best heavyweight in UFC history. With Ngannou standing across the cage from him and John Jones waiting for the winner, the legacy and story of Stipe Miocic could still have some of its most significant chapters yet to play out in the octagon. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to let me know by leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Apart from that, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.